Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pits of Metal and Motorcast. This is your host, Dave. I got a special guest, singer, guitarist, songwriter, Jackie Brown. How you doing, Jackie?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, Dave. How you doing?
Not bad. So, you staying safe in these, stay-at-home times?
Well, everybody's in the same boat, so to speak. But yeah, you got to prioritize your health and just try to, maintain a healthy balance. And some things are harder than others. I'm in a lucky situation where, my husband is our main provider, which is a really good thing because all of my music gigs got canceled.
Yeah. So being at home, are you writing any new music while you're at home?
Well, there's a few different stages to when you're writing music. So you would think I'm home more, I would have more time. However, I also have two teenagers that are no longer in school because of the pandemic. So, it really reduces the amount of time that you have to really sink into anything other than cooking, cleaning, shopping. Yeah. But there's a little bit of work being done. Right now, I'm more focusing on some of the marketing and promoting angles of my newest original balance, which I am just getting ready to release May 1st. So it gives me a little extra time to cover some ground there.
Awesome. So give me a little bit of history of the Jackie Brown Band.
Well, without going way too far back, it's a long story. I could have a whole lifetime series about my life. But my original band was, I guess the first time I ever sang was with other bands. So I was about 14 with my first official live band. Basically just did covers, and we wrote some stuff too, but much like other bands, just kind of came and went, and that was like my official rock band, garage band. And as I grew up through my teen years, I started writing my own stuff, and I joined another band, which was a 6-piece rock band, and I was with those guys. They're pretty popular in the Milwaukee area. I got some pretty cool opportunities where I was able to open up for some more well-known 70s and 80s rock bands. So that was pretty cool. I got to meet like Marshall Tucker and Head East one time. So that was pretty awesome. But eventually that 7-piece rock band once again just kind of fizzled out. And I was, quote unquote, just the lead singer of that group. So when that fizzled out, I started a family soon after that, and then when my children were old enough, my son was, old enough to handle himself without the mama right there all the time. We're talking toddler years or whatnot, but I was really chomping at the bit. I wrote some songs while I was, starting my family. I continued on with my guitar playing, and I still kept in touch with some of my bandmates. It's really important to do is just keeping in touch with fellow musicians, especially if you gel well together. You can always work together in the future, and that's exactly what I did. I just maintained my, my relationships with my bandmates, and then when I started getting a little extra time for myself, I started pursuing my music again, and I started just doing acoustic stuff. So it eventually went from just, Jackie Brown to Jackie Brown and the Boys, because once in a while I would have, 2 or 3 other additional musicians with me when I performed out. And then, it just took one day of a drummer coming up to us at one of our shows saying, "Hey, how come you guys don't have a drummer?" And I'm like, we don't have a drummer. We're an acoustic 3-piece. But that's actually how I decided to turn things around, because I really did miss that full band sound. I mean, I love acoustic music. I grew up as a kid. That's what really influenced me was that original acoustic guitar, singer-songwriter, folk-style music. It just really spoke to me, and I just love that style of guitar. However, as awesome as that is, sometimes you need just that full band. You need that bass, you need that electric guitar, you need that drum kit to pull off some of the rockers, and sometimes those are the best ones. So that's just kind of how we started forming the Jackie Brown Band. And players come and players go, but I just wanted to keep playing music, and I was unfortunately the only songwriter amongst most of the musicians that I've worked with, so I didn't get too much help in that department. But over the years, priorities change, and we had some really good jobs together as a band, and we started, expanding our venues, and you just get to a certain point locally where you want to start, doing something that's going to last long term, and I thought I wanted to switch up my priorities a little bit and start focusing more on original music. And since I was the only songwriter, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to switch gears. So it was fun for about 12 years. Jackie Brown Band, a.k.a. Jackie Brown and the Boys, has been around, and we still, can throw together a show at any given time, because I was really blessed to work with a lot of professionals. But, as far as, what you got to put into something, you have to expect to get something in return. And, songwriting, I think, is the most, to me, at this point in time, songwriting is, the most rewarding as far as I'm concerned. At this point, back in my 20s, I was like, yeah, I love singing cover songs. Love it, love it, love it, especially when you have an amazing band to back you up and they just nail everything. But, after a while, you just, you got to start new. You got to learn new stuff, and songwriting is definitely something that you continually learn new tricks to the more you do it. So that's kind of what I'm prioritizing now, is more independent artist stuff. And I really, really featured that acoustic, homegrown sound on my next single release, Balance. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Now, who are the rest of the members that make up the Jackie Brown Band?
Well, Jackie Brown Band, the last members of Jackie Brown Band was, obviously myself. I had my rhythm / part-time lead guitarist, Daniel Fossman, who was the most recent addition for the last 18 months, about 2 years-ish. And then we worked with Dan Palmisano, who's an excellent keyboardist. Jeff Schofield, who's another amazing lead guitarist. And then we also worked with our drummer. We call him DJ. And he was with us for a few years, too. And, like I said, with some of the larger band shows, depending on the size of the venue, we like to throw in an additional percussionist that we work with occasionally. So shout out to Mikkel, really great guy, does some singing and stuff. But yeah, that was basically it. That was us. We were 5-piece. And once in a while we rotate, one of the boys from back in the day that wants to come and do a couple songs or something. There's one of those friendly type open door, not necessarily to strangers on stage, but definitely, if we see a fellow gem in the audience, we're going to get them up on stage and at least do one song, right?
Yep. So now, what made you want to, become a musician in the first place?
Well, I guess it's because music just always spoke to me, and I was one of the cliche girls in grade school that wanted to be a singer when she grows up. So that's all I had. Some people want to be movie stars, some people want to be baseball stars, some people want to be singers. I was one of the ones that wanted to be a singer.
So at what age did you figure out you can sing?
Well, I come from a musical family, not in the aspect of, having professional musicians to learn from, but my mother is she's got a very nice voice. Her entire family, they all, were from back in like the 60s when, people were just more musically inclined. I think, everybody was love one another kind of thing. But ultimately, it was just from being around good music. And not everybody likes music, not everybody really enjoys and like literally feeds off of music. But people in my family, that is kind of how we are. And that's one thing that no matter how many differences we had between my sisters, my mother, we could always kind of gel at least on one or two songs. And it was usually the old stuff, like, well, my mom was introducing me to, like Billy Joel and the Beatles. I loved it, and it really, just sang to my soul. But at the same time, I was very intrigued at the current artists, which was, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson. I was very intrigued by those artists as well. So it was just kind of a nice influence overall, I think, about like current pop culture as well as like classic rock and roll. But yeah, it just kind of happened, and we were, not real shy about singing around each other when I was a kid. So that's kind of what we would do for entertainment, is we would have like karaoke contests, except we didn't have the fancy karaoke machines. We just literally sing a cappella. And then we judged each other.
Now, did you ever
usually with the hairbrush.
Did you ever take any vocal lessons?
No, I never did. I tried to once, but I guess depending on what stage you're in your your talent, building your talent, I think it could be very beneficial depending on the individual. But at the time, I sought out vocal lessons. I was currently going to Milwaukee Area Technical College, which I think is currently like shut down, unfortunately. I think the downtown branch is done, kaput. But when I was going there, I was interested in trying to like find the next level to singing, right? Because I'm just self-taught. So I thought, yeah, of course, I'm going to ask a professional. So I took, vocal class, but it was, a bit of a yawner. And it's hard to get into something when you don't enjoy the music that you're being forced to learn. Although I want to say kind of, because, at first I was like, ugh, opera, okay. But, I did give it an opportunity, and we just kind of butted heads on the material I was being forced to learn. It's kind of like English class, If you want to give somebody a nice, juicy story and tell them, okay, you need to read this, they'll probably read it without too much fussing if they don't want to. But then if you give them something that's just a big, boring piece of facts and names and non-fictional, just, history right out of the friggin' book, they're probably going to be real intrigued to read that, and they're not going to enjoy it. You know what I mean? So it just depends, I think, now, knowing what I know. Some people could really benefit from vocal classes, and a lot of the students in that class were like damn near tone deaf. So I'm sure they could totally benefit from that class. But, school and education being what it is, you have to take 101 first before you can go to 102 or 103. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
So I got bored after the 101. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to learn anything here. Damn it. Really looking forward to that. But, whatever. One of the best self-taught tools that I've, experienced over the years is literally just recording yourself and then listening back to it and trying to correct what you don't like about it. And that's been like the biggest helping tool for me as a singer, because, like I said, self-taught. So I just learn from my mistakes and try not to do that next time.
So now, at what age did you pick up the guitar?
Well, like I said, my initial my heart and soul was just in singing. I felt I was adequate at a young age. However, being adequate isn't going to pay the bills, right? But even before I was concerned with that, I just wanted to sing the songs that I wanted to sing. And in order to do that, when you're performing live, somebody has to know the chords. You have to know the song. You have to be able to physically play the song in order to sing it. And I don't know if you've taken a look around. I mean, it's the numbers are getting better, but back in the day, there were very few female musicians, and therefore there was very few reasons to learn female songs, female lead songs. So a lot of the times I ended up having to sing male songs, which is fine because, it's depending on the artist. You can find some artists like Blind Faith, Led Zeppelin, some male artists that are very popular, high demand. And a female vocalist could cover that, depending on the range. But it came to the point where I'm like missing out as far as I'm concerned when we're performing live, when I was playing with a 7-piece rock band back when I was, 15, 16. And I wasn't able to sing because we were running out of my songs. And when I say they, I mean my bandmates at the time who were running, the show. Like I said, I was just a singer. So in order for me to get any other acknowledgement than just a singer, I needed to learn guitar. So that's what I started to do. Even though I wanted to learn piano, I was a much more difficult instrument, and it was a lot harder to find a teacher to teach a child piano. So I dabbled with the piano a little bit, and then the guitar I was more forced to learn. But I just learned a chord at a time. And honestly, learning 3 chords, I thought, no way am I going to be able to play this and sing. There's just no way. But, like I said, if you maintain relationships with your musician friends, you could totally get away with just like, hey, I want to play this song, but there's this one chord I don't know. What is this? And that's exactly what I would do. I would learn the material on my own, but when I got stumped, I would be like, you could watch a YouTube tutorial. However, without showing too much of my age, I will just say they do not have YouTube tutorials when I was learning guitar. So I just had to pick the brains of my fellow musician friends, and they were pretty patient with me. Sometimes it would stick, sometimes it wouldn't. But, that's basically the reason why I picked up guitar. And you know what? I know way more chords now than I did when I first started. And I don't want to say I can play almost any song, but, I could come to a pretty close faking rendition of almost every song. so, I wanted to sing things that I got joy out of, and therefore I had to learn how to play them, because otherwise I had to rely on somebody else. And very rarely do people do exactly what you tell them to do. So, lesson learned, right?
Yep. So you said you never took any guitar lessons, right?
No, I did not. I tried, once again, when I was in my 20s. I had a little bit of extra time after my daughter was born. And, things get settled down in the family life and the home front. And I was like, okay, now I can, try to expand my talents. I actually went for lessons at one of the local music stores. However, it really is almost like picking up a part-time job. And I just didn't have the time for it. I was paying for my lessons. I was making sure I was there every week. So when it came to doing my homework at home, I just didn't have enough time to commit to it and, drop the ball. And by the time I got back to lessons, I'm like, okay, so I'm literally coming to lessons to practice. And it just wasn't very time efficient. And it wasn't exactly cheap either. So I was like, I'm going to scratch that. I was really a dreamer and thinking that I could totally solo on my own. like, I'm just self-taught, so I do a lot of open guitar strumming, which is fine because that's, the basis of every song. But I really wanted to try to solo, and my left and my right and my brain just does not think along the same line of thought. So I kind of gave up on that one, playing, you know, I don't more sophisticated, but who knows? I might visit that. To do on another day. You never know. I'm all about learning life skills and stuff. So.
Now, do you have any vocalists that were, inspirational to you?
Oh yeah, there's tons, and sometimes as an artist, you look back and you're like, yeah, I don't even know where it started from, but the harmonies from the Beatles, I mean, that is like my heart and soul there. They're obviously like totally old school, and a lot of people are haters because, they were like so cliche at the time. But whatever, the four of them were just an amazing individual talent, and together it was just ridiculous. But to have that type of songwriting capability and that type of harmonies, and it was, the Beatles are definitely one of my vocal inspirations. And sometimes, as you're growing up, you just kind of take on some new artists and new appreciation for different styles of music. So it's kind of hard to attribute one or two artists, from a specific category. But the Beatles really did kind of just light that fire, As far as like a female vocalist, there was a few. There's just so many, honestly. One of the first old school female artists is Aretha Franklin, hands down. One of the more current at the time of me singing, that was, I guess I was closer to like Michael Jackson, just the different, the different tones and the different way that he used his voice. Super cool. And applying that kind of R&B soul to a pop beat, just that overall sound was like super new. So that was pretty intriguing, just to go from like old school to like bam, top pop hits. So we're a little all over the place, but one of the female singers, and I know this is horrible because I don't even know her name. I mean, I do. If you legit tortured me and quizzed me what her name was, I could probably come up with it, but I will be the first to admit I'm horrible at names. It comes with the territory. I don't know, but the lead singer from Four Non Blondes, that would be one of the modern rock female artists that really woke me up, right along there with Alanis Morissette, where I was like, wow. So not only are we like soulful, but now we're rock. So that was pretty, that was a pretty cool eye opener. But yeah, tons and tons of different artists out there now, where it's like, you never know. Any one of them could be anybody's idol.
No.
Even just some of our local superstars. These kids come to our shows and they idolize that person up on stage. So I just, remind people to be kind and be humble and, love what you do and do what you love, right?
Now, how about somebody like Janis Joplin?
Now, my mother definitely taught me Janis Joplin at a young age, and a lot of people make reference to my voice being very similar to Janis Joplin. However, which I don't mind. I mean, I love singing her stuff. Her range is amazing. I love some of her old school, like just, side tracks, just, some of the stuff you don't even really get to hear too much. You can just be chilling, listening to her and be like, who is that? But she has one of those voices where some people, a lot of people just don't appreciate exactly what she's doing with what she's got. And it's not a smooth sound by all means. But like, for example, when my children hear any song by Janis Joplin, they'll be like, they'll turn their noses up at it because they're so spoiled with today's, smoothness, like the digital sound and, processed vocals. They're not giving her credit for what she was doing with what she had at the time. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is, goosebumps sometimes. So she was definitely one of those artists that I think, when I was listening to her and learning her material, I wasn't like what you would call quote unquote inspired, but I definitely learned a new appreciation for what she was doing, and I could do it really well, and I enjoyed doing it because it was, it's not easy, and as a vocalist, I like a challenge, so she intrigued me in that way, where just her soulfulness, her range, and, the bands that she played with were just amazing on point. But yeah, I get a lot of Janis Joplin references because I can do her very well. And she's very fun to do. So once again, it depends on what kind of a band are we working with,
Right.
We're doing full band with horns and whatnot, you can get away with some really cool Janis Joplin songs. But, if you're just doing acoustic stuff, you're a bit limited to what you can do to really highlight, like a Janis Joplin highlight, But I'm a fan. I won't say that I'm not. But could I sit around and listen to Janis Joplin all day? No, probably not, because I'm a channel changer.
Now,
I could probably listen to the Beatles channel all day, though.
now, how about singers like Benatar or Ann Wilson?
Oh, hell yeah. So, I've actually seen Ann Wilson in concert. Ann and Nancy Wilson are just like the dynamic duo. They sound just as good now as they ever did. And, some people just get better with age. These are one of those people. I seen them at a live concert at Summerfest right on the Miller stage, which was pretty awesome because I had the opportunity to play on that very same stage the following year. And I was like, oh my God, I'm standing right where Ann was standing. But anyways, that was just a happy moment of my own. But no, come on. That chick's pipe, her range, the smooth quality of her voice is, sometimes you just have to shut your mouth and listen to the original artist sing that song. And she's definitely one of those artists. Friggin' love her. So good. If they ever come back again, I definitely want to see them put on a great show. And then to top it off, they, which I didn't know this, but apparently they used to be a Led Zeppelin tribute band. I'm not, if I'm correct. But they played their last two encore songs were Led Zeppelin. It was amazing. It was like one of the best concerts I've ever been to, and it was free.
Yeah, I remember when I saw Heart many years ago. They did Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin.
Dude, they did Black Dog, and they did Misty Mountain Hum. I couldn't even believe it. And of course, I'm pretty sure they probably threw in Rock and Roll too, but it was just as good as the original artist. And I know this because I got to see Robert Plant. Whoop, whoop. Just saying. There was also another concert where I seen this man, and I'm like, holy crap, he is just as good, if not better, because he's sober, than he was, back in his prime. You couldn't even tell. Some of these artists, they just keep honing in on their talents and striving for perfection, and some of them totally reach it, man. Some of those concerts, it just blows my mind. So I'm really looking forward to the lineup for Summerfest this year. Fingers crossed. Mama needs to go see some Steve Miller. Just saying.
So now, what do you enjoy most about being a musician?
Probably like the thrill of just being in like your happy place. Like if you like laying in the sun, and you just all of a sudden lay in the sun and you feel that zen come over you. Some people like to go on roller coaster rides, and they feel kind of a butterfly, but almost relaxed feeling. That's the feeling that I get when I perform. And it's not butterflies like being nervous. Depending on the show, I'm not gonna lie, I still get a little nervous once in a while. Not nervous to the point of like, shaking or panic attack or anything. But it's actually more like a calming, like an anticipation. Like, oh, I get to do this. I get to do something that I like to do. And then I get to do it for hours. And I think that's my favorite part, is I just really enjoy singing. I don't want to say it's effortless for me, but I really enjoy it, and it's not very taxing, depending on the material. But I've learned from, doing the rock and roll Janis Joplin grit all the way up to, just self-taught, stretching and training my range to hit those Aerosmith notes and those Ann Wilson notes and be able to pull off some heart, as well as, keeping some of those rock and roll grit notes in there too. So it's just nice to have all of those different influences, and then you try to write a song just as good as theirs, and that's the hard part.
Now, what do you hate most about being a musician?
Probably the setup, tear down, promoting, marketing, all of the, that pretty much is the business end of it. I like everything else. Yeah, just the business end of it. And when you're an independent artist, you pretty much just are really invested. You're invested in not only your career, but you're also invested in the equipment that you use, and you're also invested in how much it's going to cost you as opposed to how much you're making, and you really have to treat it like a business. And I guess that's kind of like the downfall of it, where it's like I usually have a hard time drawing that line. Like, I know I have to treat this as a business, but I don't want to charge you this much. So I don't like handling really the business end of things. But once again, famous words of one of our local icons, Bobby Way, Jackie Brown. If you're not going to do it, who is? But, yep, got me there.
So now, Jackie, what would you consider to be one of the fondest memories of your musical career?
Well, that's kind of hard to say because that's a hard one. There's a couple of great moments, it was great when I got to meet, some famous people. Not only famous people, but, rock and roll musicians like Marshall Tucker and Head East, and it was super cool to be able to shake these guys' hands. And, so I want to say, yeah, that's a highlight of my career. But as far as, having to do anything with my career, it had absolutely no impact and no influence. It was a highlight though. But I would have to say, as far as my personal career, if I had to label a highlight on it, I would go with my Lights a Party CD release party. That was pretty amazing. It was local. It was right here in Milwaukee, landmark, the Pabst Brewery. It had a great turnout. The album itself took, just took a little piece of me with it, but it was really worth all of the blood, sweat, and tears that I put into that album. And, shout out to Cherry Pit Studios, who I recorded Lights a Party with. And shout out to all my boys, Jim Kuby, who was on drums for that one, Tim Zilker, who was on bass for that. Dan Palmisano was on piano, as well as Jeff Schofield on guitar. They take direction very well. we had a really good time getting every song exactly how we wanted it. And Lights a Party, the featured song on the album, I got a really amazing local hip-hop artist to join me to cover the quote-unquote white girl rap part, because I wrote a rap to this song. I did like a crossover rock country to a crossover, which I was really trying to capture that kind of Beatles feel, where you do two different songs, but they're in one song. So I got like a hip-hop reggae crossover into my country rock song that I wrote. And Yogi B is one of our local hip-hop artists, and I met him just through a friend of a friend. We collaborated, started swapping notes. Once again, just following up. If you meet somebody along your path, just, they're noteworthy, then you should probably follow up. Just even if it's just, hey, how you doing? And Yogi was one of those people that was just very receptive. He was a very good writer as well. I gave him what I had written, and he put on his spin and switched it up, and he really made that song exactly what I wanted. So Life's a Party, the entire album, is something that I can still listen to this day, which is pretty rare considering technically it's a few years old now, but just a handful of years. This, I think, is like maybe 3 years. But that was definitely one of my highlights to my quote-unquote career, because I got a 10-song disc that I'm like, okay, bam, let's put a stamp on it, because this is something that I can hold on to and I can be proud of. And if I heard something I didn't like, I didn't let it go, because not only was I the singer, the songwriter, I was also a co-producer. So, you really got to hold your ground, even if you feel uncomfortable in the business end of things. In the end, you just have to be like, hey, I'm the one that has to be, okay with this end finished product. I'm the one that's flipping the bill. I'm the one that's already invested all this time into it, so you might as well be exactly how you want it. Maybe not exactly, but close. And luckily for me, I was working with a lot of receptive musicians and artists as well. So, end of it, Life's a Party album is probably one of the best things that I've done in my career. Plus, I earned a little bit of side money on it. It got a few of my songs got featured in some Netflix series, as well as a couple of different promotional videos for some corporate stuff, which doesn't give you much money, but it's nice just to know, like, hey, not only did I finish this album and I sold like maybe 500 plus, but hey, my song's in the background on on this one Netflix series. Not a huge highlight, but it's a highlight.
Awesome. Well, Jackie, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do this interview tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, thanks for reaching out. And
any final words?
Well, I tell you what. I know that everybody is kind of getting a little bit of claustrophobic, and we're all trying to do our best to stay at home and stay safe. I would just say, focus as much as you can on a positive state of mind. And when I say that, I'm not trying to sound all, hippie on you. But my new release is coming out May 1st, and the entire theme of this song is about keeping a healthy balance within yourself, within your life, whatever you have control over. Keep just be aware. Be aware of things that make you feel bad, and be aware of things that make you feel good, and try to do more of those good things, because it is going to be beneficial to your mental health. And that includes even, physical exercise, as well as just, treating yourself kind emotionally. So May is Mental Health Awareness, and I just want to remind everybody to do something nice for yourself, because you deserve it. And I wrote a song about the struggles of mental health for everybody. And I hope that you guys enjoy it, because it's completely raw, it's completely acoustic, and it's completely Milwaukee original. So that's going to be coming out May 1st, and you guys can follow that on my YouTube channel. or you can also follow that on my Facebook or on my website, JackieBrownandTheBoys.com. So you guys stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Jackie, and you have a great night.
Right on. Thank you, Dave. You keep on doing what you're doing.
All right. We'll do another one in the future.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.